Base defences are coming to Grounded. We don't 100% know what they'll look like or whether or not they'll actually be in this update, but we do know there is going to be some form or shape of base defences. That was told by Adam during one of the Casually Grounded streams a good few weeks ago. So it is coming, hopefully this April. We're expecting a surprise update as they're going to be showcasing a bunch of stuff off at PAX East. So I went through the vault of playing Grounded the way it used to be played, because I remembered you could access some of the traps that were originally in the game but they actually took out. Warning, everything I'm about to say is absolutely guaranteed to have changed by now. The looks, the design, they may not bother with some of these traps, they may have got rid of some, and there's no guarantee they're actually all going to be hitting in the next few weeks. But I still feel it'd be cool to show off what kind of traps would actually do with certain insects and bugs and how they could work. So the one I'm showing at the moment is meant to be the honey trap, and it's meant to slow down bugs and creatures as you walk over it. It slows down players as well, so not always great, but you can see here it kind of does work on the spider. I absolutely love the idea of this. Imagine if you have got these littered around certain parts of your base and you can funnel creatures through a corridor. The slower they are, then you'll be able to get on top of a mounted maybe turret or crossbow and then shoot ahead at them. Or obviously you just go ahead with your own weapons that you've got to hand. Given that this has been in the game, or was part of the game before they removed it, such a long time, I feel like some of these more basic ones I think we will get in the next couple of weeks. There's so many avenues that you could use this, not even just for base defences, but imagine having the ability to plonk one of these downs, slow down a creature so that you can go ahead and try killing it just to get the resources from it when you go and venture it. Or setting up, death places where you can lure lots of the creatures from that area into a space like this to help you take them down. I have shown some of these off before in a previous video, literally like a year and a half ago when the game first came out, but I was assuming they would be added very soon. They never did, and I never really took much of a look at them again until obviously they got removed. So I have rebooted an old version of the game, and this is how I'm able to show some of these off now. You won't be able to use any kind of cheat engine or anything to get access to these unless you've actually gone and downloaded an older version. Has to be said, some of them are still pretty buggy and they can cause your game to crash, like when I tried to build too many ice traps. In total, there was the honey trap, there was the ice trap, there was the plasma orb, the slingshot turret, the pebblet dumper and the catapult. Now these were all in the same radial wheel. In the end, I always felt like the pebblet dumper would be some actual sort of storage area for you to just put loads of your rocks. But maybe it really was meant to be some sort of defense feature. We'll try that out in a second, but this is obviously the catapult, and this one works pretty well. And again, I'm fully expecting lots of these to change. You can see it's made out of rubber, grass, weed stems and just a clover leaf. And we kind of do have the ability to jump in a direction now with the bouncers being able to change the direction of them. So maybe this isn't needed as much, but of course it does lay flat on the ground and it means that you go flying through the air. I could honestly do this all day long. You can see it is a bit buggy though, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, being able to throw yourself around, or more importantly, throw bugs. If we lure a couple of ants over, we'll see what kind of damage it does to them, or at least what happens, and boom, see you later, ant. So again, this would be great. Imagine having a whole line of these against your base wall so that you could stop creatures from demolishing your walls and simply send them flying. Maybe you could have some spike sprigs and you can time it or put it perfectly. It will throw them into an area like that. Or keep firing them onto bouncers and make them literally go miles across the yard. I think that's one aspect we might get with the actual bounce direction, that might be applied to something like the catapult, so you can really get precisely where you want creatures to go when you fling them into the air. As said, the trigger for it doesn't always work at the moment, and obviously it's a long time ago, so I'm expecting maybe big improvements in the future, but I would love this. And again, it's just another way that you can utilise yourself travelling through the skies. I guess we just don't really need it as much now. Like I said, we've got the actual bouncers that you can change direction. Also, I absolutely love the sound effect that goes off when you do it. It sounds like Wilhelm's scream. I'm all down for throwing ants everywhere. But what other creatures could it throw? Will it only affect small ones? Will it not be able to be used on bigger creatures like a black ox beetle or maybe some of the others? Next we're on to a couple that really weren't that stable. The slingshot turret, it just never was able to place. Literally every time I've tried to put the slingshot turret down, it would crash the game. So I kind of gave up. But I'm guessing the idea would be it would sling pebbles, so you'd be able to throw pebbles at enemies and cause damage. The ice trap was quite buggy as well. If you tried kind of creating more than 2 or 3 at the same time, it would crash, but I did get it to work eventually. So effectively what the ice traps do, they make you go super fast, and I love these. I always thought this would be an amazing way to create your own sort of conveyor belt system getting across the map. You see so many great creators on Grounded, like TPG, building up their huge, massive kind of runways where they can get across the yard. Just huge bridges. So imagine if you could put some of these ice traps on them and go super fast across them. That'd be so cool. In terms of base defense, I could see how they could potentially work, but obviously not working with this wolf spider here, or seemingly it was just kind of getting a bit jittery and stuck when it did kind of walk on it. But yeah, the idea that you can maybe place these down, make creatures go zooming off in the wrong direction. I feel like these would probably be more about quality of life for you though, or to help you get away from creatures so that they could maybe fall into your trap, or you'd have time to get onto the slingshot turret or something. And obviously it's using water to make, that's what you're meant to craft it with, which is like canteens. But we kind of feel like we deserve some sort of snow or ice biome in the game. So this might not be something we see until that is implemented. There's no guarantees it is, but it could happen. I think it's a good chance we will see something like that happen. But you see us just jetting off there from the rock. That's how crazy it could be if you had some of these lining up. So I'm sure they'd have to nerf it a little bit. Don't want you going too far across the map, otherwise you'll just die from full damage a lot, but it could be fun. And sadly, I'm teasing you here because after this shot that I was just about to line up, I thought, you know what, let's get a couple more, and it ended up crashing the game and I didn't have time to try it once more. So yeah, I don't really think we'll see some of this stuff until we get some sort of ice biome added. Now, strictly not a trap, but I thought I'd chuck it in as a bonus. The rugs! You may have never seen that Grounded has had rugs. Now, these rugs didn't really make sense at the time other than just being a cosmetic item. Obviously too large. These were always meant to have been resized, I am sure, to something smaller, but when you could first spawn them in, they were huge, and you had this one and the B rug. But now we've seen the cozy meter. You may have seen me show you guys that last update that we had. There was basically a device that measures how cozy you are. And a lot of games have that. Whether it's Ark, whether it's Rust, whether it's obviously Valheim, the most famous new one. Basically getting buffs for how cozy your base is. By hanging up ornaments, by having decorations, you can basically give yourself a buff. So if Grounded's going to go down that route, then obviously the rugs will definitely make a much more sense now with a cozy meter that might come into the game in the future. And as said, please don't assume anything like these rugs, if they do actually appear or end up being a thing, will be this size or even this colour or texture. In fact, I'm pretty sure they'd do something a bit more creative, have some sort of artwork on them rather than just really plain. Or how good would it be if you could customize them, like get a signs pack so you could change the actual looks and colours of your rugs. You could obviously walk across these rugs as well, and they could use them as a bridge. So yeah, not strictly a base defense part, but I thought I'll chuck it in here. Now, one of the more exciting features is the ability to have some sort of electricity traps. Now, this is a orb, and it's basically meant to, I guess, give electricity off if anything comes into it. As I said, it was put into the trap section, so I've always presumed it'd be something we'd build. The look of it is very, very different from anything else in Grounded, so I can't imagine that would be something we'd have unless we are actually going to be able to collect maybe marbles. That's what it reminds me of, like a big metal marble that you used to get. Different varieties as a kid. You'd have ceramic ones, the glass eye, cat's eye ones, but you could get like the metal looking ones. So imagine if you could cover or capture loads of these marbles and they'd be able to generate electricity to maybe slow down or do damage to creatures walking through their effect. Obviously the VFX is here as well, so they did think about this quite a bit or chucked it in, but you can see it doesn't actually do any damage to the ants itself, nor does it do any damage to you, as I did test it when I put myself out of God mode. But powered buildings is a feature from the actual feature board. We've never heard much about it at all, but we're presuming that eventually we might be able to have some sort of electricity system, or we're going to need maybe more power to operate certain things to maybe craft or make new stuff. Last time I tried messing around with these, this was what crashed the game, and I basically stopped trying to do any more with it. But yeah, it does work at the moment. So if they implement this, will it be the same sort of design? Will it even make sense? If they're not going to be adding power buildings in the way that we kind of think they are, things have changed obviously, then having a trap like this might just be a bit too maybe over the top. The other flip side, of course, though, it is part of the assistant manager boss fight where you've got them electricity pylons. So imagine if we can actually build something like them, and that's what it looks like more. Of course, also there's a possibility the devs just had something like this in the actual section for you to craft or be able to utilize, but it was never intended for us to actually have access to. It was just a way for them to place something in the world and test some features out, so maybe like this boss fight. I'm probably the most skeptical of something like the orb kind of electricity trap compared to the rest of them. I don't think we'll necessarily get that in this update, and I don't know if it'll be something we'll see in the future. And then lastly, we got the Pebble dumper. So this, I figured it wasn't really a trap. It is somewhere just to store your pebbles. But like I said, it is in the actual trap section. But I think this was before they really categorized a lot of stuff. Basically, it doesn't go on walls either. You'd be able to see me try and place it against the stems. It wasn't working, so I thought maybe it only goes against grass. It doesn't actually go on walls. It has to clip on top of a roof piece. I imagine something like a, medieval kind of siege idea where bugs are attacking you and you'll be able to drop a whole bunch of pebbles on their heads. But we all know that pebbles don't do that much damage unless you really got good aim and you throw one at an ant or creature. It does really tiny amount of damage. So I don't think this is actually going to be a base defense feature. Much like the rugs, I feel this was just put in next to it. Although I did finally get a chance to see this working. When I did this like a year and a half ago, this also was something I never got to test out because the game crashed and I never revisited it. But you simply just place them inside. And although we've got lots of chests and stuff that maybe hold a lot of items better, it's still nice to have some different storage options. So I hope they do revisit this and we do get a chance to have some sort of hanging baskets that we can collect things like pebbles. Especially with the hot give function that they've added in, where you can just simply just chuck stuff in by holding it. Pretty much what we're doing here with the pebbles. And that's about it. There may be many more defences. We could let our imaginations go wild and have all sorts of different types of turrets, or being able to chuck oil or maybe bug gum on them, or even other different types of things like spike traps from the walls. Maybe we can make walls move in the future if they do add any kind of powered buildings and literally have like bugs getting squished between two big massive kind of squares. Imagine it being Lego pieces that you could crush bugs with. You give me your ideas about what you'd like to see. The other last thing to remember is, of course, that not everyone loves the idea of defences, and devs have already said that they're going to make it an option. So don't worry, they will put it in the actual difficulty, I'm sure, and turn it down or turn it off if you don't really want that. The idea of base defences really is about the bugs maybe coming to take some of your food, as always. I don't think they're necessarily going to be there just to destroy your base. It's got to be something they really want, like bees going after honey or ants going after your food. I personally think this is needed. It helps make the game so much longer and replayable, creating all sorts of crazy trap designs and surviving. That's a big component of survival games that Grounded's kind of missing a little bit. Things like this help games be more replayable, and that's something that Grounded suffers from, because once you've done the stories and explored most of the dungeons, you've only really got base building to do after that. So yeah, I'm really hopeful this becomes a big feature in Grounded in future. But like I said, it will be an option hopefully for you to turn down or turn off as well. Hope you enjoyed the video. Check out the rest of the guides. We'll soon get our answers about exactly what kind of base defences are in the game soon, and I'll be there to show you guys first as always. Until next time, I'll see you later.